You'd be surprised to know how many times I get questions from realtors about how they can effectively market their business. Well, this conversation, Courtney and I talked with Leslie Victory about the tactics she has used in the past to systematically grow her business, even in difficult markets. I think something that sets you apart is your ability to market, and not necessarily just the relationship side of the business, right? Because, if you follow Ninja Selling, they talk a lot about relationships. Mm-hmm. If you go to the MRA, they talk about, the cold calling, knowing your numbers. But a lot of real estate agents don't understand marketing in general. Mm-hmm. They don't understand what it means to use social media as a tool and webinar series and just getting access to information and start giving value to people. Mm-hmm. And then giving and giving and giving and knowing that eventually it's going to come back to you. Because a lot of marketing is that, teaching and educating. So tell us about your mindset and why and how you came up with this webinar series for first-time home buyers and how you generate business for yourself.
So I like organic lead generation systems that are focused on niches. So if an agent can just stay with me, right? So there's a lot of business in real estate that is very expensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a lot of agents that don't understand marketing will buy into those very expensive systems as a primary source. Mm-hmm. And that can really wreck you. Mm-hmm.
Well, then you're just competing with expenses. Who can spend the most?
And then the other thing is the business becomes so expensive, and the agent becomes dependent. So it's like a squirrel in the park, right? If you go out and put a walnut in the middle of the park greens every day, and there's a squirrel, the squirrel will come in and become dependent on you. Mm-hmm. And then if you stop, that squirrel will starve. Mm-hmm. They will not know. They will just be waiting for that walnut. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a very similar dynamic with agents. And so what I like to do is build systems and processes around niche-based marketing. So for instance, are you a first-time homebuyer specialist? What process do you have around referrals and sphere of influence? People often say, agents, well, I get most of my business from referrals or my sphere of influence. But what they don't understand is their process is not duplicatable. Mm-hmm. They are accidentally earning money.
Yeah.
Yes.
They are accidentally making a business, but they can't duplicate it. Mm-hmm. So if they did, let's say $100,000 in GCI around their sphere of influence or their referral base, and it wasn't a system based around that niche, then next year they cannot duplicate it.
Yeah.
They may accidentally come up with some similar revenue, right?
Yeah.
But they can't purposefully grow and they can't purposefully duplicate it.
Yeah.
So what I like to do is build legitimate, tangible systems, SOPs around those things. And one of them, I've built an incredible system around first-time home buyers. And now I'm working on building the first-time home buyer certified agent program so that they can have access to the leads that I give them and all of my resources that I've aggregated, and it's a whole information system. Mm-hmm. And then
they go work with clients that you're feeding them, but they've been trained by you.
Yeah, and they have access to all of my systems and my knowledge.
Yeah.
So while somebody else, like a lender, might say, no, that's not allowed, or no, that's not possible, or you can't do that many concessions, they could call me and I could be like, they can't, but this person can.
Yes.
Or they can't do it this way, but call it that.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like you're using a general business principle that Lauren tries to teach all of our business owners, and that is understanding who your ideal client is.
Absolutely.
Understanding who you're targeting, what does that person want or need, and then you doubling down on that over and over and over again in a systematic way so that you're constantly giving that to that person. I mean, we are learning as a company, Arena Collective is learning that we've been putting out a lot of content and just saying, these are services that we offer. This is a power of attorney. This is a bond for deed. This is that. This is this. But like at a certain point, we're just giving out basic information about the services that we offer, but we're not tailoring that to our ideal client. Instead of it being, what does our ideal client need to know about a power of attorney? Why does our ideal client want to know what a bond for deed is? And then saying this type of person needs a bond for deed because, and now we're getting the attention of our specific ideal client instead of just throwing it out there and hoping that somebody jumps on it. right? Or just getting to know, like knowing that if your ideal client is your center of influence and your people, what kind of information do they want to hear? How do you touch them consistently enough and staying in front of them to know whenever they're looking to buy a house or need a real estate problem solved? And so knowing your ideal client, and you've hyper-focused on your ideal client, you have two, it sounds like. One is the first-time home buyer, and two is the agent that wants to do business with first-time home buyers. So you can tailor your content and the education and the value that you're offering around those two ideal clients, and that's why you're getting the success you're getting, as opposed to just throwing stuff out there and hoping that somebody hears it and is interested in calling you.
Exactly.
You talk and look, and you don't turn away the $1 million listing in the French
Absolutely
Quarter,
not.
but somebody who sees somebody in the industry adding value is going to want to come back to somebody. And the beauty of having the first-time home buyer, if somebody buys their third house at 50 but their first house at 25, you're going to get their first house and their second house and then their third house, not just the first one, especially when you add a lot of value. So the opportunity that each one of those clients offers you over the lifetime of them buying and selling a house is much greater than catching the person on the third or fourth transaction. Absolutely. And so, and a lot more people are fighting over that person, and that person already has a lot of relationships you're having to break. So, focusing on a person who doesn't have pre-existing relationships is big, who don't have pre-existing habits is big, pre-existing expectations is big, and then knowing what that person wants to talk about allows you to hyper-focus and speak to them directly.
Yeah.
And so I think you're following all the basic systems and processes that any business owner should follow. Just most real estate agents don't know what it is to run a business or don't have systems to follow.
They don't think as a business.
Yeah. Nobody tells them they're going to be a business.
No.
They don't tell them that. Like I've
No.
I've been like the first person agents see. I'm like, you do realize that you run a small business?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It's interesting because I teach agents a best practice is to niche down.
I love that.
Every agent I ever bring this subject to refuses
Yeah.
at first
Why do you think they refuse?
because they don't understand. They think that they're going to miss out.
Yeah,
they
there's like a
think by
FOMO,
they think by niching down, they're going to isolate themselves and be so, broken, lonely because they're the only man on the island, which the exact opposite is true.
Yeah.
By niching down, all of my marketing material has one voice. All of my
It also has a clear message.
it's a clear message
Because-
there is no gray.
When you say I can help someone buy, sell, and invest, if that person doesn't even believe they're a part of that conversation,
using
they
you.
would never call you.
Yeah.
But if your message is, hey, regardless of what your credit score is, regardless of the money you have in your bank, regardless of this, there may be an opportunity for you to become a homeowner, and you're pitching that, they can then say, wait, hold on. I now might be able to pick up the phone and call you. I might want to, right? But then people get lost. They get lost in the whole, I can help you buy, sell, and invest as an agent. And it's just one of many voices. And that becomes an issue too.
Right. It's another stumbling block for someone who already has a little bit of a limited mindset on building that dream for them. And so it doesn't matter what niche you pick, right?
What are some examples of some niches
So
that agents can get into?
Niches that are, really so effective, especially in times like this. Like our industry is hurting.
Because niches can be market specific sometimes.
Absolutely.
But they could also be, through
so
any market.
I just wrote a business plan for an agent who specializes in historic French Quarter residential and commercial properties. That is a niche.
I'd be dead honest. If someone came to me with that, I would be looking for an agent who knew that, because it becomes, everything from the historic tax credits to working with the Vieux Carré to working with, basically the contractors that are the best to work with down there.
Understanding, even understanding
Financing for it.
that and the ins and outs of the local municipalities that regulate and govern what you can and can't do with those things. I did a deal.
I did not want to go there, but you can.
But there was a deal in New Orleans where somebody had literally leased the facade of their building to the city and could not do anything with it without permission by the city. They owned the building, the facade of the building and the roof they had leased out. So again, so many niches, and understanding the ins and outs of all that is huge. You can work with not only first-time home buyers, but work with doctors and nurses. You can work with people that work in the plants.
all of those different, you can work with entrepreneurs who own businesses that don't have, like,
You
there's
can work with vets. You
Yeah.
could work with investors.
you
You could
distressed
work
properties,
in
foreclosures,
You could
banks,
work in
REOs.
land.
Yeah, there's tons of opportunity, and if and you can, that's why I love understanding a little bit about all the different ways of doing business as a real estate agent. Right, the MREA I think is a great book if you want to understand how to break down numbers. So, and then Ninja Selling is really good about building relationships within the different niches that you want it. So, but like, if you understand, if you're going to work with French Quarter properties, there might only be 30 that are sold in a year, just throwing out a number, right? Well, is that going to be able to create the life you want to live? Before you focus on the initials, make sure that you're going to be able to actually close on enough deals to get you there.